everybody, welcome to the Three Gun Show. This is episode number 278, and I'm your host, Dave Hartman. My special guest in this episode is Arizona open shooter Matt Kitzmiller. Matt is a cool dude that I met a couple months ago in Phoenix after I took Keith Garcia's Champions Are Made in Practice 3-gun class, which I highly recommend, by the way. Matt and I hit it off when we had a podcast with our buddy Kim Peterson. Good old Kim. Missed you, buddy. And so when I found out that Matt was going to be here in Austin for work, I invited him over to the 3-Gun Show World Headquarters here in the studio for a chat. And we covered a ton of great topics in this podcast right here. And Matt tells us a bunch of great things that he's learned along the way with each challenge. What I really like about Matt in this podcast is he brought like a bulleted list of like, hey, these are topics you've talked about on the show, and this is the experience that I've had with them, and this is what I learned. So you're going to hear all that, and we cover a ton of great topics, wide-ranging. You're going to love it. But before we get into that, check out 3gunshowproshop.com for all your 3-gun needs. We're loading in new products all the time from a lot of your favorite brands, including JP Rifles and Vortex Optics. So think of us when you're making your off-season upgrades, and just shoot me an email if there's something that you want from one of our suppliers that you don't see. Just dave@3gunshow.com. We're adding new stuff all the time. Eventually, it's going to be your one-stop shop for all the 3-gun goodness. This podcast is brought to you by the good folks at JP Enterprises, the finest rifle components built by people that actually shoot the games you do. They don't sell gimmicks, just the most accurate and softest shooting rifles that anyone could want, and they do it with a smile. After years of buying select JP parts to finish off my own builds, in fact, I was counting. I have JP parts in 4 rifles and 1 whole JP rifle. That would be my LRP-07 in 6.5 Creedmoor, which I'm going to transform into a 308 for a match coming up soon. I recommend both. If you are a builder, if you're a build-it-yourself kind of person, and you need a new 3-gun blaster in the off-season, pick up a cryo-treated super match barrel and all the other go-fast parts from JP. If you're not into building and you just want to buy it now and be ready to race, JP's got you covered there as well. Either way, visit jprifles.com. That's all that we've got for now. So enjoy this wide-ranging podcast with Matt Kitzmiller.
Go.
Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, sir.
You kind of want to press a button, don't you?
I definitely want to press a button.
Which button do you identify with the most?
This one right here. And the one to the right of it is the
Yeah, that's the if you screw up. Oh,
see, I'm already wrong.
So,
yeah.
Matt, you're a listener of the podcast. You enjoy the soundboard?
I do.
Do you think it's added something to the show? I was worried that it would be like just a distraction.
I think it's gonna add something to the show.
Once we figure the buttons out.
Yeah. I thought for sure. I know that Adam's been requesting this, and you've been. I listened to that podcast recently where you basically said, well, you can always donate that. Somebody's got to pay for it.
Oh, you heard it?
Yeah. Well, I think you said that on the podcast.
Yeah,
right?
I did. Yeah. I don't remember. That was years ago, though.
Oh,
or
really?
Maybe it was a year ago.
Well, either way, I listened to the Jay Christensen podcast, and I saw you guys kind of, messing with it a little bit. And I thought for sure last time I heard Adam come on that he was going to just kill it, but a little underwhelming.
A couple of, so he's Adam has an amazing amount of restraint. I don't. I know me. Like, I know that I've got buttons in front of me and they need to be pushed.
Yeah. Yep.
So
in every way possible.
Yeah, that's for sure. Boy, that's an understatement, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I like pushing buttons. I like flicking switches. If there's something there, I'm going to see what it does. That was cool. So I was just telling you about I used to work at Lockheed Martin, and some of the stuff there was really cool because it was built in the Cold War. And like one button did something massive. So it was like being in Tomb Raider, Oh, yeah. Like, I wonder what this thing does. Ka-ching. You're like, holy crap, like that 3-ton overhead crane just started moving. It was fun, dude.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah, I like it too. I mean, I'm an electrician by trade. I'm gonna tell you all about.
So you know
my
what
trade.
all the buttons do.
Yeah. I remember listening to you. You had a podcast. I think it was the Jay Christensen podcast where you said something about, I don't know why people say by trade. I know you don't come out by birth.
By birth.
Yeah.
So you're not an electrician by birth?
No, I'm not. I'm an electrician by trade, which means to me, it means that I'm an electrician by my schooling and by my learning, but I'm not actually a practicing electrician right now.
Is that what that means?
That's how I interpret it.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, so like with me, like I train a lot of electricians, and I train union electricians, which are some of the most proud people on planet Earth.
Yeah, that's true.
So making the distinction between whether you're an electrician or not before you train them goes a long way. So I used to do
has a little cred.
It does, yeah. I mean, we go through a 5-year apprenticeship, and it takes some time to get where you want to get. So you when you have people that have gone through the same kind of schooling and that kind of thing, there's a mutual respect there.
It's like a military camaraderie kind of thing, right?
It is, yeah.
It's like a nod, like, yep, we've been through the same thing, the same program, we know the same language.
Right, and the language is really it, because with electricity, there's a lot of people that think they understand it, and they really don't. They understand enough where
we call those patients.
Right.
End up in the emergency room.
Yeah. But when you're having those conversations, it's like, as an electrician, you're constantly thinking in the back of your head, am I wasting my time talking to this person? Do they know what they're talking about? It's like when you're talking to somebody about shooting. It's like, I shoot. I'm a shooter. Okay, do you compete, or do you shoot your Glock at the desert or wherever, in the woods if you're here in Texas, or, do you shoot or do you shoot,
Yeah. So last time I was in Utah visiting my dad, bless his heart, he asked me if I could show him once again how to clean his Glock 19. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. We're cleaning other stuff here. Happy to show you. So we did that, and I'm like, oh man, this thing is like, it's like the dinner plates we're eating off of. It's so clean. He's like, well, I shot it a lot. I'm like, how much is a lot, Dad? And he's like, 150 rounds. It's like,
over the course of 3 years.
Yeah, since the last time I was there, which was like 2 years ago. Yeah. And, that is a lot for my dad. Right. That's not a lot for you and me. Right. Like, we lose that much in the wash,
Yeah. It's a decent practice session.
Yeah, it is a decent practice session.
Shooting, draw, shoot one.
Yeah. So it's all relative.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Well, so welcome, first of all, to the 3-Gun Show studio.
Yeah, thanks. Love it.
Does it look better on camera than it does in person?
No, I figured it out when I first went to the dissident headquarters. I was expecting like something grand, and then when I got in there, I was like, holy smokes, you guys do everything you do in this small quarters, and I was blown away. So I've kind of expected it.
That's the first time I went to Hayes Custom Guns. They actually were in Pflugerville, which you just came from, and they were in a very shady part of Pflugerville,
right?
And they were with I assume the people that were their neighbors were repairing cars. I don't want to say that they were dismantling them, but you never know. You don't ask questions, right? But contrast, and then they put out like some of the most fantastic pistols on earth, and then contrast that to like where they're at now. It's like, wow, you've come a long way,
right?
So it is kind of interesting, like what you can do with camera angles,
right?
Like I clean up to this box right here, and then I don't worry about the rest. You can see it's like kind of a mess of gun parts.
That's funny. That's super funny.
Yeah. So you're on work, and you took this opportunity to come by, which is really cool.
Yeah. Got some flights dialed in, so it worked out just perfect.
Nice. Well, happy to have you here. One thing I really appreciate about you, Matt, is that you give a lot of feedback for the show. And not only do you, send like Instagram messages or text messages or whatever, just whenever we're talking, but you're like, hey, I'm coming out, and these are the 7 topics that I take issue with on the podcast that I'm going to be bringing with me. So be ready to talk about them.
Yeah. I have quite a few items from our last podcast that I could have easily bled over into this list, but I've listened to, 5 or 6 podcasts since then.
Yeah.
Your podcast, and just, I hear it. And if I sit here and I just try to muster up something, it's not nearly as effective as me taking notes and thinking about, you know, what kind of things I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, usually when I talk to people on the range, you know, a lot of times someone will take issue with something that I've said. And I appreciate that you put them in like a bolded list. And you're like, all right, number one.
Yep.
Like the trade thing, for example.
Yep.
That's something I'm going to have to pay attention to now, because I never thought of it as like contextual, as like someone currently practicing, or if they were doing that at one point, or now they're in some sort of different type of job.
I think the example that you'd use was an engineer.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of. So it was my buddy Bill that I worked at Lockheed with, and he said he was an engineer by trade. And I'm trying to recall what he was doing at that time, because he did several things over the time that I knew him. Excuse me. And one of them was like failure analysis for mechanical things.
Right.
And he worked behind a closed door. But so I'm trying to remember if that's what he was doing at the time. And like, so he was doing failure analysis, but he's an engineer by trade, right? So that in that context, it would make sense. And now I feel like a tool for saying it.
Yeah, I heard you. I remember exactly where I was when I heard it, and I was like, I'm gonna have to write this down. I remember when I got to a stoplight, I wrote it down.
Well, I think about that all the time. Like whenever I'm trying to like come up with a word, I'm like, someone out there is in like a Ford F-150. They got their iSync on right now. They're on their way to work, and they're shouting at the radio the word for me. Yeah, it's about right.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I was listening to it, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm gonna text them. And I thought about it. I was like, nope, I'm gonna wait till I see him, and I got a microphone in front of me. We're gonna clear this up.
We're gonna school that boy.
We're gonna school this boy right here in Texas.
My favorite one is I had Ken Nelson on, and I said that he pontificates on Facebook. Right.
I
could tell by the look on your face that you know what that word means. I was not correct in my understanding of that word. And later on when I looked it up, I felt really, really bad. I was like, that I can tell. Yeah. So Ken like had like a little micro outburst on that one, but I was like, I can tell by his reaction that word doesn't mean what I thought it meant. Right. I wonder what he thinks it means. And then, so it was kind of embarrassing, but you know, Shango Boom on Instagram. Yeah. He, will every 3 to 4 months or so, he'll just send me that word as a text, pontificate. I'm like, bro, that was years ago. Like, let it go.
I do the same thing. I don't know how many times I've bothered Ryan Kleckner, but he wrote a bit, and I hope he's listening to this. He's probably gonna be like, oh, that's the guy. I can't stand him. But he wrote something, and he wrote an article for I think it was in Recoil, and you know I get that magazine regularly, and I read, you know, cover to cover, book end to book end every time. And he had wrote, I think the article was called "Get Your Ass Off the Bench" or "Get Off the Bench" or something like that. And it was like a turning point for me, because when I read it, I'm like, you know, I'm thinking back of not only when I'm zeroing guns, but you know, earlier in my shooting career, I would you know, air quote, practice on a bench shooting and with a bipod, you know, and listening to that, it kind of changed a lot of what I did. So I'd see him put a post on Instagram, and I'd write like, you know, "Get your ass off the bench" or hashtag "Get your ass off the bench." And he wrote back one time, and he's like, "That was a long article. I wrote that article a long time ago," or something like that. And I was like, okay, got it. Stop saying that. Yeah.
Like, bro, it affected me in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah. Shango Boom, his, what's his name? Sean Burrows, I think.
Yeah.
So his little Yoda Boba Fett thing that he
posted
my God,
a couple days, that was with the 3 Gun Show theme song.
That was badass. Did I do it right? I don't think I did
that was pretty good. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. What he did. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty epic. He's done a couple mashups of the 3 Gun Show. He did of the theme song. He did one that like way back. This is like probably 2 years ago when I was at the range with Chad Torres. Is when we started doing the range day thing. Yeah. And
I never got the joke. I see range day, hashtag range day all the time.
Yeah.
So, I never really got it.
So what it was I think, I don't even remember it. Like I was just like caffeinated up when I was going to the range with Chad one time, and I was doing the Instagram story of like, oh, hey, it's 5 a.m. We're leaving for the range, and now we're at the range. Hey, Chad's here, and then I'm riding in the back of Chad's truck as we're painting stuff, and I just was like, range day, and so it was like just a high pitched shout, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Sean took that and he put it over like the Three Gun Show theme music, like this right here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just like this, and then it was going, range day, range day, range day. And that was it. It was just like the entire song, and like every 3 beats were me saying range day like that. And it was freaking hilarious. He's like, hey, you got to use this as a theme song in the next podcast. And again, this is a couple years ago. I was like, okay, cool, send it to me. And he sent it to me, and it was like corrupt somehow. I think it was because like at the time I was using a PC and he was using an iPhone to edit it. So it didn't work out. But like that, like sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll be able to hear that. And it's weird, like when someone takes you out of context and like mashes you up like that. And it just sounds funny, but I can't like unhear that. Anyway, that's where the range day thing came from. It started from that, and then just the hashtag range day, and now people just shout like, hey, what day is it? And range day. And then they tag Three Gun Show, and I share every single one of them because I'm happy to, because I think that's a cool thing that we've started. But yeah, so that's where it came from. So yeah, Sean has done mashups before. Yeah.
He seems like a pretty cool guy. I haven't met him.
It's kind of funny. Like he must have like a lot of dad time where he just like wants to be alone. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, what can I do with Dave's theme song?
Right.
And edit it on the iPhone. But the little Yoda dude, that was hilarious. And then if you recall, that little Yoda is like flicking switches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just as I said.
Yep.
There's buttons in front of him. Got to push them.
Yep. Got to do it.
Got to do it. So, yeah. So what's going on in Phoenix? You guys still shooting?
Oh yeah, nonstop, buddy.
You guys don't have a off season?
Never. Nope. I'm on a 6-week. I fly. So from the week before Thanksgiving, I was in North Carolina for the week working, and then I came home for a couple days, and I went to New Orleans for Thanksgiving to see my mom, take my wife to see New Orleans for the first time, which was like we were talking.
What'd she think?
She loved it. She loved it. She was blown up. I mean, I don't think she's ever seen like even a pelican.
Yeah.
So yeah, my mom picked us up at the airport, took us to this nice seafood restaurant, and straight out of the gate, there's pelicans and egrets and all kinds of animals all over the place. And she's blown away. And the food, food's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Pretty sure we gained some solid weight there. But then I got home Sunday night, this last Sunday night, about 6 or 7 o'clock. And then I was on a plane on my way here Monday morning again. So I have, the next 3 weeks I'm still traveling. So I have 6 weeks solid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'll go home, this weekend I'll go home and I'll shoot a rifle match. And then I think I miss a match because we're going to San Diego for a tattoo appointment, but yeah, I'm steady practicing. When I'm home, I'm grabbing my guns. I'm kind of, sometimes I'll fly with them, maybe even bring my pistol in a holster so I can dry fire a little bit. But I'm traveling with a colleague right now, so it's kind of different. And of course, he's from California, where my company's based out of California.
Oh,
so yeah, I got to be a little careful.
That's a little hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, we don't stop. We shoot nonstop. It's pretty chilly right now.
Is it? What's chilly to you? 75.
Chilly to me, realistically, is I'd say anything less than 60 is chilly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
that's chilly.
Yeah,
it's not cold. It's chilly.
But right now, I mean, it's in the 40s at night.
Right.
Yeah, and in the 70s, it's probably pretty comparable to what it is here, just minus the humidity.
Yeah, the temperature swings in the desert are way cool because it's like in the middle of the day. Be 100 degrees, and at night it's 40 degrees, and in some areas, not obviously not all the time, but that fascinates me, right? Because there's nothing to keep the the heat in. It's just atmosphere just going out. But here, in the summertime, if it's like 100 degrees during the day, it's like 92 at night.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, that is not something I'm used to as a Colorado boy. Right. Well, you don't get a break. It's like you get an 8-degree break, like in. Like, yeah, in Colorado, it's the same thing. Like, as soon as the sun goes down, you're like, thank goodness we can go sit on the porch again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with at the Colorado 3-gun championship. I was pretty impressed. That was the first time I've ever spent any significant amount of time, anything other than going to the Denver airport, I guess is what I mean by significant amount of time. That's the first time I ever spent any time in that area, in Colorado, period. And man, I was in love with the weather, dude.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you were in Colorado Springs too, and Colorado Springs is just gorgeous.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, my mom's an air traffic controller by trade.
So she doesn't do it anymore, is what you're saying?
No, she's retired.
Okay.
There's another application.
See how I
there.
caught up on that one?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
You are a teacher, aren't you?
Yeah. So that pretty much makes her she's basically a meteorologist, by default, which kind of makes me like sort of like a meteorologist in training.
Yeah.
But any of my friends that are listening, they know they're probably laughing about right now because I'm obsessed with the weather. Like I know what the weather's going to be today here, tomorrow at my house, tomorrow here, tomorrow everywhere. Yeah, I don't really look at the weather on the news, but I'm a frequent violator on the Weather Channel app. And I saw what the weather was going to be like in Colorado Springs, and I was like, man, it's like over 100 degrees here in Phoenix. Like that's crazy. That's going to get in the 60s and the 70s. So yeah, I just the fact that it like kind of sprinkled at least a little bit every single day, and oh man, it was phenomenal.
Yeah. In years past, we had like monsoons coming through when you're not talking sprinkles, you're talking like buckets of water being dropped. It was crazy. Did you ever hear the story? I think I might have told this in the match recon of Parker staying in the travel trailer during the Colorado 3-gun championship.
That's where I met him. I remember meeting him there.
Yeah. So that was this year, right? Yeah. So was it not last year, but the year before that was when we had the big monsoon. I don't know. They're starting to blend together. So it was either 17 or 18. And I was like, people were on the stage shooting. Luckily I was done shooting. I was going to go be taking some photos, and then, I'm in my pickup truck, and all of a sudden it just like starts like just dumping where, you can't see the hood in front of you. You're like, okay, well, I guess I'm just parked here. But, I could see the travel trailer where I was at, and like, okay, well, it's not blowing away or anything. And, but it was just dumping so much water. And if you've ever been in a travel trailer when it's raining, it's very loud. So Parker's in his kennel inside the travel trailer. He's got the AC on. He's listening to country music because that's what he likes. And so after it stops raining, I go to check on him and let him out. And that poor little dude shit himself.
Oh boy.
In the trailer.
Oh boy.
I know. And so he's like a 7 or 8 year old dog at the time, depending on what year. And he doesn't do that anymore. It's not one of his things. Like, he hasn't done that since he was like a little dude. I didn't leave him in there for like 10 hours. It was like an hour.
Right.
He was so scared that he pooped himself. It was crazy. And then I had to clean up poop, which was awesome. But yeah, so do you remember Pikes Peak, that big mountain?
Yep.
That's where all the weather comes from. So if you're like, meteorological dork, stare at that thing, because that whatever happens up there, hour and a half, it's going to be happening at that range.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I had Tony Litton as a tour guide going through there, and he was pointing out, all the geological mysteries that are taking place through there, and how things aren't growing at this elevation, and tree line. And he was kind of like the I don't know, like the storm whisperer. He's like, hey man, we got to get our stuff in the truck. It's going to start raining for sure. It's going to start raining. And I'm looking around like, what are you talking about? Like, it's not on the forecast, bro. Trust me. I've looked 18 times already this morning. It's sure enough, man. Every time, we had to pull our stuff in.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, once you've lived there long enough, you know where the weather's coming from. So you just kind of turn yourself that direction.
Yeah.
And see, I haven't figured out Texas yet, like where everything comes from. It's a tough one.
Yeah. That's a whole different animal. When you get into, like, I lived in Oklahoma City for a little while, and I got to see, the weather where it's perfectly sunny in the middle of summer, and all of a sudden it just rains. Like, you don't see a rain cloud anywhere. Yeah. And Louisiana's like that too. I lived there quite a while, and yeah, same thing.
Just like captures enough moisture in the air or something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I haven't taken my meteorology degree to that extent quite yet, but
well, it's when you were talking about that, I was thinking, so my dad worked at Denver Water for like 35 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like really into water cleanliness and filtering water and stuff like that. So anytime we went to like the mountains or whatever, we'd bring pumps with us and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like in the 80s and 90s. So pumps were size of 2-liter bottles instead of like the small little Sterapens you can carry with you now.
Right.
But he was constantly like, and so this is in Colorado. So any body of water we went to, he would tell you how many cubic acres were in it at that moment. He's like, now usually it's this, but right now, he was like that kind of encyclopedic knowledge of like all the reservoirs in Colorado, because there's not a lot of lakes, but there's a lot of reservoirs.
Right.
And so I kind of have like the same thing. Like if I'm like near a creek, I'll just stop and stare at it and like, I wonder. And then you look up and you're like, oh, okay, so this thing cut this path over, I don't know, like the last 350 millennia, yeah, it's crazy. And you just start to watch like the erosion. You're like, okay, so there's the water cuts and everything. So for me, it's water. For you, it's weather.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's weird how our parents have like that type of effect on them.
Oh man, I remember being quizzed by my mom. What kind of cloud's that?
No kidding.
That's a cumulus cloud. No, it's not. It's a cumulonimbus cloud. Do you know what nimbus means? And she started,
gonna embarrass me.
Yeah. Nimbus means rain in Latin. Remember that. It's never gonna go away. Like the most useless bit of information on planet Earth. But yep, I know it. Yep, it's fun. It's cool.
Does that help you at all with shooting? Do you know what the weather does to your projectiles or anything?
I know what wind does.
Yeah.
But I don't shoot in a whole lot of rain. I mean, the few times that I've shot in rain, it's been like I'm concerned about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what my gear is going to do. I don't know if everything's going to like just stop working. I don't know if my dots, I shoot open, so I don't know if all my dots are going to stop working. I see most of them are water resistant and some of them are waterproof and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, when I know that there's rain, like at a Vortex shooter source, when I knew there was going to be rain, I was freaking out. And John Murray, he and I traveled together and he was constantly, oh, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, dude, I'm worried about it. Like, It's not something that I ever do.
Does John live there in Phoenix with you?
He does. Yeah.
Where's he from?
I think he's originally from San Diego.
Oh, okay.
But John's been in the Valley for, I couldn't even say how long, but he's been there for a long time. He's been with he works for the DPS. Mm. So John's a state trooper. He's a lieutenant or a sergeant, one of those two. But he's been around. I think he's been doing that job for 20 plus years. So, got it. Yeah, he's been around. He did the whole 3-Gun Nation thing. So he's been a really cool friend and a solid mentor for me, helping me out a lot. But he started shooting open. So I mean, yeah, we shot our first match about 2 months ago, and he whooped on me. With club matches, like I'm sure most of us, we don't have long drawn out 70-second, 80-second stages. We got 30-second stages. So if you slip up once and you're shooting with people that know what they're doing, you're pretty much toast. So yeah, the first one, he shot. I think he's shot 2 matches now. We shot a couple weeks ago, but yeah, he's made the jump to open for 2020. He's got his dissident gun, and yeah, he's all dialed in, and it's gonna be interesting when he gets it together.
Open is thick this year.
Oh, dude,
and it's gonna be even thicker next year.
Yeah, I love it. I'm all about it.
I like to watch. Actually, I had Thanksgiving with the Dissident Boys,
mm-hmm.
and I was talking to Mike, and I was telling him like, dude, your Instagram stories
mm-hmm.
are legit.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, just test firing. I'm like, no. You tag the owner of that gun. Like, I love that. Like, that's extra intel. Like, oh my God, that guy's going to open. Like,
right.
Oh my God, that guy's going to open.
Yeah, Atlas did that. Either today or yesterday. I've been traveling a lot, so all the days are kind of running together. But they tagged Mike, one of our shooters at Atlas. They tagged him on a limited gun that I'd been watching. They'd put it on the Black Friday or Cyber Monday or whatever it was. I saw this gun that was a bicolored gun, and I was like, oh man, that thing's sharp. Yeah, and I saw it this morning that it's going out to him. They tagged him on it, so I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, because especially like shooting for dissident, and it's easy to sell dissident guns because they're awesome, and I'm lucky that the people that support me, they make great stuff. So it's easy to it's like selling crack to a crackhead.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to work hard. Like it's not hard work. They pretty much sell themselves, but you can kind of push them along, and yeah, so with the dissident guns, I completely lost what I was going to say.
Seeing new shooters on the story.
Yep,
Test fire on the story.
Are so great, and I love it.
No, I mean, I dig it. I wonder if I would dig it if I didn't do the show, or if I would just be like, I don't know who that guy is or anything. But because I do like pay attention to like practice score results and who's shooting where and who's tagging people in their this, and just trying to get like a lay of the shooting scenes in different areas and stuff like that. I do enjoy it. Like when you see like, three dissident guns are going to Florida. It's like, oh, what's going on over there? I think that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I mean, another guy I know, Mike Pan, just made the jump to open. Just got his dissident gun. I think he's shooting a Chaos pistol. And I think he made his debut at, what's that match? It was just in Georgia.
Fort Benning.
Yeah, the Fort Benning match. I think he did pretty good. Finished, top 10, maybe top 5 in open. And yeah, it's awesome. It's working with Kim made the jump. Kim Peterson made the jump to open this year, and that's been just a blast. Just kind of bringing him through and helping him out as best I can, and showing him how and what's going on. It's awesome. It's fun. It's really neat, because I think a lot of TAC Ops guys, when they come over to open, I think they're starting to figure it out now that it's not strap some dots on and everything's so much easier.
Yeah.
There's a lot of preparation you have to do, and there's a lot of time that as a TAC Ops shooter you have some recalibration time, and that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand. And I've been talking to a couple of my friends about this recently, where if you're gonna shoot, you're gonna shoot an array and you're gonna stuff some quads. When you're stuffing quads, most good TAC Ops shooters that I watch shoot, they're looking up and surveying the field.
Yep.
While they're jacking a few in, and then they're surveying the field and they're jacking a few in. But with open, you don't have that luxury. So
no,
you don't get that little reset time, that little recalibration time to recalibrate. So it's pedal to the metal the whole time. Unless you want to finish lower in the ranks, you have to be on your game. So with John and John's a little bit ahead of the game because he's been in the business for so long. But I think a lot of us, we have to figure out how to just stay smooth and stay consistent. And that's my big goal for 2020. It's just staying consistent. I have no interest in staying the course for an entire, major match. Like I have zero, like if I wanted to do that, I would definitely play in a different division. But with open, you make the wrong mistake a couple times, and you're pretty much toast. So, and there's I don't know, there's not a whole lot of room to recalibrate there. So it's,
well, especially now that there's like so much heat, right? Like maybe 4 years ago you could have slipped up a little bit,
right?
But now you can't. Like there's no way.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I love it. Like we were talking earlier about bags and getting gear, and touching back to what Adam was talking about on the last show he was on, talking about maybe it was 2 shows ago, and he's talking about the kneeling bipods.
Yeah,
like we saw that. He and I squatted together at Surefire, yeah. And some of our squad mates were using Scott Green's kneeling bipod. And I remember the first time that I actually thought about it, we had somewhere between 50, 70 yard plate rack. And, Jeff Chafin or Scott Green, somebody had offered one up, and hey, you want to use this? And I was like, I kind of do, but I've never used it before. And I know how I've gone down this road.
Oh yeah. Trying new gear on the clock
at a major.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks. So,
dude, I had like a 10-minute conversation with James Gill when he was like, just use my D60. I'm like, I don't want to use your D60. I've never used your D60. He's like,
right.
I've run that in machine guns. I'm like, well, now I really don't want to use it.
Right.
But, yeah. So I understand what you mean by like new gear. And if you're new and you're listening and you're like, what do they mean by new gear? Like never test new gear on the clock.
Right.
You know, maybe a club match, you know, if club matches are where you test things and where you try to improve, which is what we were talking about before we got started here, but never at a major match.
Yeah, I busted mine out. I busted mine out last weekend. So
Your
like
bipod?
Because
you did end up getting one, right?
I did. Yeah.
So
I got home and
before we get to that part, did you end up using it in the match?
No.
Okay. Do you wish you did?
No.
Okay.
You know what? I thought about it and it was kind of messing with my head a little bit because I was the first person to shoot this particular stage. It was the first one up, and I nailed it. I mean, I did really well at that stage. I don't know if it was a stage win, but it was pretty high up there. And I shot that thing off.
It's even worse. You'd have been trying something new,
right?
And first,
right?
And then everybody goes after you like, oh, that's how I was supposed to use that thing.
Right? Yeah, I had one makeup shot and just took my time and ping, 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 ping. But yeah, the kneeling bipod. So I strapped it on a couple last weekend. So I just started shooting for Vortex recently, super recently. So I'm playing with the razors and I had that kneeling bipod in my range bag. So I grabbed it out next to my sling that I carry because it weighs nothing.
Yep, carry that sling everywhere.
So I was like, oh, I'll give this thing a shot. And I was shooting next to a bench, you know, kneeling, of course. And of course I encountered something I never would have thought of. My shell ejected and then bounced off of something. It hit me right in the face and burned my cheek. And I was, you know, you never really think about something like that until you're there. It's it's, you know, the couple of days before that, I was shooting left-handed or shooting weak-hand and with my rifle and just started burning the shit out of my arm. It's like you never really do that a whole lot, but sometimes
Yeah, so I've got a nice scar on my arm now from the summer at the Vortex Extreme 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yep.
You know, and I was just up against like a little dirt mound and it hit that dirt mound, came right and rolled right down into where my pocket or the pocket of where my arm met that dirt.
Right.
And I was looking for my next target. I didn't have time to sit and go, owie. And
yeah, it's funny when that happens in real time because you feel it burning you.
Oh yeah.
But by the same token, it's like I got work to do.
That's right.
I'll bitch about this later. Yeah.
Yeah. No factor.
Right. Yeah, but the open game, I'm really looking forward to 2020. I've added a couple more matches. I'm gonna try to shoot the JKM match. I'm gonna try to shoot the Wisconsin 3-gun championships up there with Adam. I don't think there's too many more new ones I'm gonna shoot. I'm gonna follow up some of the matches that I shot this year, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun. But I'm gonna try to head out east and northeast a little bit more this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still want to get to Banning, and I want to do USPSA multi-gun nationals in Florida. I don't know if either of those are going to work out this year, but yeah, I'd love to do those. I'll be at JKM again.
Yeah,
faux show.
You gonna run is that the one you run like a 3 or 4 hour podcast live?
yeah. We accidentally started a little early this year, so I'm gonna upon all the other jobs that Tiffany has, Dakota's mom, I'm gonna give her the job of now, Dave, now,
right?
Or at least maybe I'll draw a line on the round that we're supposed to start because it did end up being like 5 hours last time, and that was a long time.
It was fun. It was fun listening to people come in and out of the truck.
Yeah,
people leaving and
that was Gen 3.
Oh yeah,
that was Gen 3.
That one was awesome too.
Yeah, so at JKM they build like a tower.
Okay,
and it's help me out, scaffolding. So we build a scaffolding tower, and then so now we're above the shooting area, and then we have speakers so all the shooters and all the participants can hear what we're saying.
About.
Yeah, it's just like this, but imagine like an entire field of 120 shooters in front of you.
Was Dustin Sanchez with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember. I remember seeing a picture of that now.
Yep, Sanchez. Oh yeah, Sanchez and his daughter.
Yeah, that's it. I was gonna say there was a kid.
She just held still long enough for that photo, and she's like, "All right, I need mom now."
Yeah.
But yeah, JKM's it's a unique experience because of the type of match, the 5 stages on one day and the shoot off on the second day. And then I enjoy it because, Three Gun Show's got a pretty big part in that second day of the shoot off. So
nice.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think that this was the 3rd year. I think they're used to us now. First year, people were not excited about hearing their name while they were shooting.
Oh, yeah.
So now we have a lot of disclaimers like, hey, if you hear anything over the loudspeaker, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the guy with the big beard. That's the one that's going to tell you to stop if you need to.
That's funny.
I know. The first year we'd be like, and Kitzmiller drops a quad, and then you just like stop and look and turn around at us. It's like, bro, we didn't tell you to stop. Like, we're just describing what you're doing.
I think it was Lainey Barnes that was talking about when she was abroad. I want to say it was Germany or
I was Tracy.
Oh, okay. When they were announcing their names and trying to kind of bother them a little bit or get them all fired up.
She was saying that 20,000 drunken fans screaming your name, and that Lanny would next to her go Barnes while they were shooting. Like they would trade off doing that for each other to inoculate them.
Right.
So yeah, like that's got to be a trip, right?
Oh, I can only imagine a whole different level of competition there.
Yeah. Trying to think of like I've given a couple speeches in front of big audiences, or like air quotes big, but probably not that big, maybe only 300, 400 people or something. So I can't even imagine like that level. That'd just be, I don't like people watching me work.
Yeah. I walked into a classroom this morning in a new building that, like I said, my company had an office in Maynard, Texas, not far from here. And then we just switched up to a new office in Pflugerville. So the one in Pflugerville has this humongous classroom. There's got to be 100 seats in there. And I walked in this morning and I was like, oh, this office is beautiful. And I get to the actual the classroom, and it's just, there's 3 like 80-inch TVs right next to each other. Boom, boom, boom. No projector or anything like that. It's huge TVs and everything's paired. And man, there's so many seats. And I immediately was like, oh boy, I need a beer. Like, oh boy, I need to chill out a little bit, because I mean the biggest crowd that I've talked to, and my classes are usually between 2 and 4 hours, so it's a pretty decent amount of time. And the biggest crowd that I've dealt with is about 120, 130 people, 120, 130 students at the same time, and that was like, I'm not even gonna lie, I definitely had a Xanax right before I went into that thing, so I was freaking out.
There is a tipping point to where like everybody just blends together.
Yep.
And then you're like, have I just been talking to this one person this whole time?
Yep.
There's kind of a weird thing. Like eventually you catch like someone nodding, and you're like, oh,
and you
feedback. That person's giving me feedback.
And you go straight to that person, and you realize they were yawning, or they were saying to their buddy or something like that.
Exactly.
Whatever, I'll take it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just move.
I don't care.
Yeah,
just going for it.
I thought about that this morning, but that's another one. That's actually one of my bullets on my list is drinking at matches.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I've done it. I've done it every match I've shot, every major, whether it's a beer or a case of beer.
After.
Okay. Yep. And that's something that I'm going to make an adjustment to for this season.
I'm glad you brought this up, because this is not something we talk about on the podcast, but it's something that I've thought about a lot.
Me too.
And back in the day when I would, the context I was thinking about this is I'm signing up for a race, right? Like a running race.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking like when I was 18, right? Remember how good you felt when you were 18?
Mm-hmm. It's like 2 years ago for me.
Yeah, whatever. I see the gray and the beard. You got tattoos that are older than that. What are you talking about?
Oh, I do. Oh, yeah.
So I was thinking like when I was 18 years old and I was running like my first 5-mile race,
right?
Which was the Cherry Creek Sneak in Colorado. I was really concerned about 5 miles. Like now 5 miles doesn't seem like that much.
Right.
But I was really concerned about 5 miles. So I did not drink because I was 18, right?
Right.
I didn't drink for, I think, 2 weeks leading up to it.
Wow.
And at that time, like, I didn't drink a whole lot anyway, so it wasn't like but when I did, I was binge drinking because I was in college. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, right?
Right.
So 2 weeks leading up to it. And then I think, like, okay, cool. So now I've got this athletic event where I need mental clarity, visual acuity, and I'm going to go have, a margarita at dinner the night before.
Right. Yeah, and it's one of those things where, I've been a construction worker, or a pitcher, right? I've been a construction worker since I was, 18 years old, and I'm 39. So I think it's something that it's like part of being a construction worker. You're supposed to drink beer when you go home. Like, that's just, I don't know.
There's nothing better than like a long, hard day's work outside. I used to mow lawns when I was in college,
right?
At a golf course. Nothing better.
Right.
Get off at 2, go have a beer.
Yep. And it's something that, just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was 2 weeks ago, I was doing a little trail run by my house that I always do. And it was one of the first times that I didn't listen to like a podcast, or I didn't have any music playing or anything like that. And I was thinking to myself, you know what, when I get home, I'm going to figure out, and when I say get home, it's like 15 minutes from my house, 20 minutes from my house. I'm going to talk to my wife, and I'm going to, kind of get something out. I'm going to stop doing something. I don't know what it is I'm going to do, but something's going to stop, And
really?
Yeah.
Like what was going on in your head? Were you like, oh, I just need something to do? Or is it like, I feel like I'm doing too much? Or
I feel like so for me, unless I'm like working on something in my house or loading ammo or something like that, as soon as I have a beer, I'm not doing anything. That, like, athletics are out the window.
Yep.
For the most part, I might have a beer and drive, but anything over a beer and I start getting a little weird, I'll call an Uber, and whatever. But I was thinking in my mind, I was just, I didn't have anything to kind of keep my mind going while I was running. So I started thinking, like, if I just changed and tweaked a little bit and stopped doing, in my mind, I was like, if I took sugar out, or adjusted, I'm not really interested in, like, taking some keto type diet or anything like that. Like, I'm not into the fad diets, and my wife's a nursing student, so I get a ration of, this is good and this is bad, and whatever, to each their own.
It's awesome to have that influence in your life to run stuff by. Like,
right.
Hey, I'm thinking about this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And she's been in nursing school for 2 years and just about done. So it's been just the last couple of years where she's just, it's cool. It's super cool, to say the least.
That's great.
But I got home and I told her, I was like, I want to cut something. I don't know what it is. And she, whiskey, immediately. And I was like, whoa.
Hey, door's over there, woman.
Yeah. I remember I'm thinking in my head, well, first of all, it's bourbon. I'm not a savage.
It's like,
oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's use that button real quick. Have you ever had someone who's like, Matt, you're into whiskey? I got this nice rye. Like, thanks.
Oh yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yep. So she immediately said that, and I was like, whoa. I was thinking something like sugar, and she's like, well, you don't even really eat sweets. And I was like, exactly. That's why I'm going to cut it out.
Yeah. Well, there's sugar in bourbon.
Right. Oh yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
For sure. But the conversation went a little further, and we were kind of bouncing some ideas off each other before she went to school. And I thought about it, and I was like, I've been drinking beer every day, and for, like, I don't know, 20 years, maybe 21 years, right? And it's not because I couldn't tell you that I want to or that I need to, or maybe I do need to. I don't know. Maybe I'll just straight up die if I don't drink a beer after work, or, and it's not like I come home and drink a case, I'll drink 2 or 3 beers every day, or have a couple bourbons or something like that. But I thought about it a little bit more when she left, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. I'm going to start right now. So that was the first day. I don't know. I get sick and I wouldn't drink for a few days or something like that. But I went the first day, and it was kind of weird. I had done a few things to occupy my mind. But by like day 2, day 3, I felt like, I'd walk past a bottle of bourbon. Like, I have a bottle of Four Roses at my house right now. And I'd walk past it in the kitchen. I'd kind of look at it, and I'd look at it again, like, kind of, I don't know, sort of obsessing about it. And it just kind of fueled me a little bit more. And I was like, you know what? There's no reason for me to be freaking out. Like, it's fine. If my body's not going to freak out, if I don't have like some weird chemical like reaction or lack of something, and my body's not freaking out, then it's fine. It's just a mental thing. So I turned it off a little bit, and I went the work week without drinking, and I had a couple drinks over the weekend, and then I traveled for work the following week to North Carolina, like I was saying. And I did the same thing there. I just didn't drink. And I mean, when I travel for work, I don't want to say that I'm staying in, you know, like world-class places, but I don't eat McDonald's, to say the least. Like we eat well, and you know, we stay in nice places. So when all my colleagues are having drinks, it was kind of weird and kind of awkward at first because they're used to me having drinks with them. But it got to the point now where, you know, I've noticed that I'm sleeping better. You know, my clarity, I have to perform at work, and I have to be able to field questions on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
I deal with a lot of people that have very short attention spans, including myself. I have a very short attention span too. So just kind of making those adjustments, I noticed that I was just like on fire, like constantly. So I started playing with, you know, a little bit at a, I shot a Tuesday night steel match, and, you know, I hadn't had any drinks the night before, and obviously I didn't drink before I shot. And I had a couple stages where it was just like autopilot, crush everything, you know, and it brought me to the point where I started thinking about it, and I wrote it down on my list of things to talk about because it's like, dude, you know, I remember trying to dig myself out of a hole at the Trigun this year. You know, I had a really rough day one, and I tried to dig myself out of a hole. Well, the night before day two, or the night of day one, we went back to the Yoder's house, and you know, I lit it up. I got some spotted cow, and I tore that shit up, dude. You know what I mean? We had a little bit of bourbon too, Kim and I. And next thing I know, the Yoders are asleep, and Kim and I are down there just, I don't know if it's a time zone or what it was, but, you know, I went to bed at like midnight, you know, and woke up the next morning and, you know, kind of felt like shit.
Yeah.
And now
That's another problem with alcohol. Is like, you can't go to sleep when you have half a beer, you know? So it's like, well, we got to finish this one.
Right.
And then someone's in the middle of a story. So you're like, well, get us a fresh one.
Right.
And then next thing you know, it's like, shit, we got to be shooting in like 9 hours.
Right. And I think that's just something this year where I'm gonna make some adjustments and see what happens, see how I'm gonna perform. I mean, I have not had the opportunity to even shoot a club match since I started this little, I don't know, hiatus.
You're shooting this weekend, right?
I'm shooting a rifle match this weekend. Yep.
Let me know how it goes.
I will.
I'll be interested to know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, you, regardless if we look at it or not, and how we condition ourselves, whether we go, you know, full Josh Tarrant and just, you know, or either Josh.
Pick like hardcore alcoholics, right?
No, I mean like hardcore athletes.
Right.
You know, whether you go to that extreme or not, we're athletes, and we're playing, you know, a game that athleticism goes a long way, and the lack thereof is a hindrance.
And you know what happens when you drink? Like your vision goes. Right. Your decision making goes, you know, and it's like you don't get all that back 100% just because you slept.
Right. You
know, it is some sort of reduced capacity.
Right.
Back when I was still working, and I was going to CrossFit hardcore all the time. We're doing a ton of obstacle races, and then I was also shooting club matches for 3-gun. My gym would do like these 30-day challenges. And I remember one time we did a 30-day challenge. And I can't even remember what like the criteria was, but it was, if you're in the 3-Gun Show patron group, it was similar to the 30-day challenge that we just did. Right. I kind of modeled it around that. But one of the things was like no alcohol. So it was like no alcohol, no fried food. I don't know, you know, whatever. Just there's a series of things that you had to do. You had to go to CrossFit, had to do some sort of other exercise activity, whether that was like walk the dog, walk around the block, whatever it was. There was water requirements, just like a, you know, challenge kind of thing.
Yep.
And I remember at the end of the 30 days, just like my mind would not quit with ideas and motivation. And I was working hard, and like, I knew what everyone in the lab was doing. Cause I just told you I was project manager for 75-person lab. I knew what everyone was doing every day, you know, that sort of thing. Like I was just like on fire. I didn't have to look at any notes or anything. And it's there is like a different feeling from that, you know?
Yep.
I often wonder if the juniors in the sport excel so much because the adults are over there poisoning themselves after day one.
Dude. Yeah. Super accurate. Super accurate. I know it. I mean, shooting with Daniela D'Angelo, just watching, you know, we'll walk a stage, and she'll come up. She's like most teenagers, right? She doesn't have an incredible attention span, but we'll walk a stage and I'll show her my stage plan, or somebody else will show her a stage plan, and she'll walk it like maybe once, and kind of, to me, it appears that she's kind of like half-assed paying attention, but in reality, she's taking it in, and I'm walking this thing, you know, 10, 12 times, and I still, you know, miss a couple marks, or, you know, I don't get the reload exactly where I wanted it, or something goes wrong and I screw up my stage. But her, on the other hand, she's just a machine. Like the way that her younger mind processes, and the fact that she's not poisoning it and she's not doing the same things that I'm doing to my mind, it's just different. You know, it's different. I think you're absolutely right.
There's definitely like a difference too, as far as like the food that I take in as well.
Right.
You know, when you can string together, you know, we did a ton of those challenges, but when you can string together like 30 days of clean eating or something like that,
yep,
and combine it with like no alcohol, like you are on fire, like as far as like mental clarity. And then I remember one of the ones we did was the Whole 30. Have you ever heard of that? Dude, it's seriously restrictive. It's like no sugar, no xanthan, no guar gum, no blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no canola oil. So it's like, if you get cashews, you got to make sure that they're either roasted in some sort of other nut oil, or you can't have them. You can get raw cashews. Like you can't have,
which are horrible. I can't stand eating those things.
Oh, really? I actually kind of learned to like them after that. But,
oh, I bet.
but like bacon's another one. Bacon's like real big in, you know, CrossFit and weightlifting and stuff like that, right? It's made with sugar. You can't have it unless you get it from this guy over here who dry ages it or whatever, and now it's like $13 a pound. Like it was that restrictive, right? And so absolutely no sugar whatsoever for 30 days, and like nothing else. You're eating like completely clean. You're working out every day and stuff like that. And then the protocol was like you start introducing things back in. It's like maybe you have some dairy and then for a day you don't. And then maybe you have some grains and then for a day you don't.
Right.
Right. And then you kind of see like, oh, what does my body react to? And like, how does it do that? Right. Well, this girl I was dating at the time, she like, she went to the same gym, but she did not enjoy the challenges nearly as much as I did. So she was like going out of her mind. So the day after the challenge ended was the Super Bowl.
Oh boy.
And we went, like, had a bunch of Coors Lights and wings and chips and guacamole and stuff. And the next day, like, I felt like ass.
Yep.
Like every joint was sore. You know, I felt like an old man.
Yep.
It was crazy.
You're dehydrated, right?
Oh, I mean, you're dehydrated. Plus now you introduce grains into your body, which you never have. So you're inflamed, right? Like you can actually see your fingers are bigger than they were yesterday.
Yep.
You know, it's a trip, but that's how like most people are walking around. Like Texas, for as wonderful as Texas is, most of the food around here is absolutely terrible for you. It's a lot of Cajun influence in this area and a lot of fried shit. Right. So you have to really try hard to get away from that type of stuff. And that is the type of stuff that inflames you. And what do we eat on ranges? You know, when they have a food truck or when they feed you, it's like hot dogs, hamburgers, buns, and then fried everything else. Right.
Yeah. I've gotten to the point where at a range, I ate a hamburger this year off one of those Roach Coach type things at the single PCC match that I'll probably shoot. I don't know if I'll ever shoot another one, but I shot it and it was pretty fun.
Was the Arizona PCC championship?
Yeah.
That was a big one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was fun. It was fun. It was air quotes fun. I mean, it was a great match. They did a great job, but it's just not my thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's just not my thing. But I ate a hamburger there. Other than that, you know, I'll eat some of those, you know, Travis gave me some of those Wenzel Farms beef sticks. when I was at Surefire. He gave me like 1 or 2 of them, and I've been hooked. I've been bothering Rachel about it and talking with Adam about it, and I love those things. So I ordered a bunch of them on Amazon. I keep those in my bag. You know, it's just something that, you know, doesn't go bad. I'll eat those. I'll eat bananas, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, the drinking thing, I mean, it's one of those things that, as it pertains to 3-Gun, which is a game, right? Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, you know, all of us need to be reminded that it's a game. I mean, we invest a lot of time and energy and money and resources to it, but if you're going to play the game and you're spending thousands of dollars, and I know I'm not the only one doing this, but if you're spending that kind of money and allocating those types of resources, I guess is a better way to put it, and then in between, you know, day 1 and day 2, you're just out there getting lit. Like, okay, are you there to shoot? Or are you there to get lit? Because I could do that at the house.
Yeah.
You know? And that's just me kind of rationalizing with myself. Like,
well, and then is this a sporting event? Is this a game that I'm competing in, or is this a boys' weekend?
Right. And I think we blend them. You know, we blend them all.
Yeah, for sure. And the sad thing is, like, it makes you want to do that because it's like a reunion. Because there's all these like-minded people. They're cool as shit. And it's like, Matt, dude, I haven't seen you in 3 months since, you know, the last match we shot together. Here, have a beer.
Yep. Especially, I mean, and I know you've talked about it on the show, or I don't remember what podcast it was where it was really that point hit home, but you talked a little bit about, or someone talked a little bit about those reunions while you're trying to do stage walks.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, now I'm starting to see that, you know, when I'm walking at a major event, you know, people want to catch up, they want to talk, and it's like, man, I really want to talk to you, but I'll talk to you after this match, maybe.
Or at least after I walk my stages.
Right. Yeah, that's come to bite me a few times. And I mean, walking stages, that's a whole nother thing. That's actually on my list. Good segue.
Nice.
So
see how I did it, folks?
Yeah. Boom. I'm going to try, I think it's this one. Nope. But
somehow funnier. Were you looking for the swoosh?
I was looking for I don't know. I forgot now. I'm kind of, it's been a long couple of days, bro. But what was I saying? Son of a bitch. Stage
walk. Stage planning. Yeah, there you go.
So this was at Shooter Source this year in 2019. John Murray and I went out to it, and I tried to basically take on his approach to stage walking, which John has a memory that is just impeccable. So he'll walk a stage once or twice and it's in. He's solid. He's good to go. And I tried to do the same thing. I'm like, oh, John's doing that. I'm going to do the same thing. And next thing I know, I have no stage plan, and I have guns, and I'm on the clock, and I'm supposed to be shooting. And
interesting.
I did that for a stage or two, and I realized, all right, this isn't about trying to chameleonize myself to someone else's style or someone else's technique of planning. Like, I require a significant amount of time of planning before I can execute and feel good about it.
So I do too, especially on the pre-walk, like the day before.
Yep.
And I've found there are certain people that I've walked with that I enjoy as a person, and I enjoy shooting with them, and I appreciate the advice that they give me, but I can't walk with them because they're, like you said, they're like their level of remembering and retaining things, like, oh, that's an array that we shot at this match over here. That's just like this over here. Okay, cool. I got it. Next one. And I'm like, no. I want to go find every target.
Right. And that's one of those things. And especially if you're walking with someone, like if you're shooting tack or limited and you're walking with someone that's shooting open, you're talking about, you know, stuff in quads and reloading and things like that. And it's like, 9 times out of 10, if I need to reload, I probably screwed something up. Like I have 29 rounds in my pistol and 60 rounds in my rifle. And, you know, I guess shotgun's always something that I'm reloading, but it's just different. So I learned real quick at that match on the clock that's not going to work out. So when I went to the Tri-Gun, I kind of did the same thing. I kind of did it like a bare bones approach to stage planning, and it didn't work out at all.
Yeah,
it was brutal. It was still super brutal.
So one person that is I have to talk to him and find out how it went for him this year. But earlier in the year, I was talking to Jay Christensen, and he said that he was going to go find every target, just kind of run up and down, and then walk away, and then catch it all in the 5 minutes before he shot the next day. And I thought, like, wow, that like goes against almost everything I've ever heard. For a season
or like for a match?
At a match. So like say there's 10 stages. So you go to stage 1, you see where all the targets are, and maybe walk up and down the lane and then go. Like don't even like air gun nothing, don't video nothing, don't write anything down. And then the 5 minutes before that stage on your first day is when you're going and you're programming and doing your 100% walk. So he's just kind of getting a feel that on the walkthrough day, and then 5 minutes is where he's dedicating everything to it. And the way he was saying it is that he was just obsessing too much, especially the night before, where he'd be watching videos and thinking about them, and then he's like, oh, and I'm mixing up stages, and so he just was kind of getting a feel for it. But me, I'm like the complete opposite. Like I want to write everything down.
Me too.
I want to make diagrams. I want to go get my stage plan 100%, and then I'll walk away.
Right. Yeah. When Kim and I went to Surefire, I had a conversation with him. I remember telling him, like, hey, I just want to let you know that I need to walk stages. So I don't know if like I need to walk stages and take it in, and I need to take notes, and that's just how I need to do it. And making sure that I'm going out of my way to explain to my travel partner that, hey, I'm all about anything that you need, but I need you to be all about what I need, which is I need to take some time, and it's probably going to be more time than you're accustomed to. And he was like, no, it's all good. You know,
it's good to have those expectations set up front too.
Right. And that's something that I learned. And I had I told John Moray, hey dude, I need to take a little more time. I'm 100% positive that he would be completely okay and totally good with that. But it went so bad for me that I made sure I went out of my way to tell Kim that. And he, it worked out just perfectly fine. I mean, I screwed up a whole. I had my stage plans just fine. It was my shooting that got me at Surefire. But even then, that match was interesting because I haven't worked out like first stage jitters at a 3-gun match, at a big match yet. And that's an interesting one. That's a difficult one to get away from. I remember at the first stage we shot at Surefire, I saw one of my squad mates that I know is an accomplished shooter. He drew his pistol, and as soon as he pulled, I think he shot one shot and his mag fell out of his gun. So he hit his mag release. And I remember looking at that and watching him do that and thinking, oh dude, like that's kind of a rookie mistake. I can't believe he did that. And I shit you not, like I was a few people behind him, and I went and shot, and I did the same damn thing.
Dude.
Like, literally, I gripped my gun in a different way than I normally do, and I hit the mag button because I'd run one of those extended mag release type things.
So is that? I wonder if that's like your brain focusing on something you're not supposed to be focusing on, and then like manifesting it. Like saying like, "Hey, don't drop that glass of water," and then boom, you drop the glass of water.
Right. Yeah, it could be, but in my mind, like I had never really done that. I mean, I'd done that with the big like paddle buttons, and I've adjusted them, and I was like, all right, these paddle things got to go. Like this isn't going to work for me. And I went to a round, smaller profile, round gnarled type thing, and I had never had that issue. So I was legit watching him, thinking, why would you ever do that?
Like, dumbass.
Yeah. I was thinking that in my head, and then I did it. So. I think it was my nerves, dude. I drew that gun, and then I was shooting with really accomplished shooters, and I was jittery the whole time. And I put another mag in my gun, and I finished all right. But it's something that I'm looking forward to harnessing, and really dialing myself in this year. That's a big one for me.
So, I've always had this, like I was just telling you about. Running a 5 mile race in college. From that race, the 2 5Ks I did before that, every other race I've ever done, every competition, including club matches, I get barfy before I have to perform. And at the last match I shot, which is UML Trad Natties, I'm like over by my truck, like and like not barfing, but just like I can't stop like heaving. You know, I'm like spitting and stuff. And Gil looks at me. He's like, "What the is your problem?" I'm like, just barfy in the morning before I have to shoot, man. I'm sorry. And it's funny because I'll be sitting there and I'm like making ready. I'm like,
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's a trip. And then after that first stage, gone, nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I hate saying that because I know someone's gonna come fuck with me now.
Mm-hmm. What's funny is that you know, people take it differently. You know, the more major matches you shoot, the more you're gonna, you know, condition yourself to take that in. But you know, I've like I said, I read Laney Basham's book for I don't know how many times. I read it, half of it on the way to Louisiana, on my flight to Louisiana last week, and the other half on the way home. And you know, just using some of those techniques, it's super big, and it's not just like a shooting thing. Like I use a lot of those techniques, like because I'm the same way before I present at a class. It's the same thing where I'm kind of jittery. So I tell myself, you've done this. I've literally done this 100 times or more.
Yeah.
And kind of conditioning myself for it. But then I talked to Kim. And I was talking to him about 3 or 4 months ago about this, and he's telling me that he never experiences that. He's never nervous before a match. And I thought about that a little bit, and immediately I internalized what he said, and I took it and made it about myself. And I immediately I told him something like, well, when you start seeing your name go up the food chain a little bit, I think you're going to start experiencing that a little bit more.
Oh, you just dropped a seed in his head.
Yeah, and but Kim's one of the most mentally stable and strong people that I think I've ever known. Yeah. Like he's a rock solid individual.
I've never seen him get over like a 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never seen him upset.
No,
never seen him. Never even barely seen him. Nervous at all.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was just me, trying to defend myself in a it's kind of a subconscious way, or maybe it wasn't. But I told him that's one of the most awesome. I mean, we've had the conversation a few times since then, and I wish that I was that way. But by the same token, if I wasn't nervous and I didn't get that rush of adrenaline, I'd probably be doing something else.
Yeah, right.
I dig it. I love it. I like overcoming those type of things, and it's awesome.
It's interesting because like we're all, as humans, we're all trying to chase some sort of endorphin release, right?
Right. Well, some of us.
Yeah. Well, is everyone trying to do that? I don't know, because like some people like self-medicate, and maybe that's part of it. Right.
Yeah, it could be, but then when you take that away, when you take, like, for instance, self-medicating with alcohol, going back to our previous conversation, I've noticed now where, I have a couple whiskeys or a couple bourbons or whatever before bed, and man, I'm going to bed immediately. My wife will bitch at me about, she's jealous of the fact that I put my head down and I'm out.
Oh man.
As opposed to like the last few weeks, I put my head down and next thing I know, I'm up on my computer, taking notes for something that's in my mind, or something, whether it's work or home or shooting or whatever it is, just, or even just doing, dumb shit like playing around on Instagram or looking at people's Instagram posts. But yeah, your mind's going like crazy still. So
yeah,
it's interesting.
That unfortunately, it's happened to me quite a bit over like the last couple months. I've had like a bunch of nights where I'll just be like, oh my God, it's like 3 a.m. Like, how am I gonna get to sleep? How am I gonna get up tomorrow? Cause I got to do that thing,
Right.
And then you wake up and you're like, oh, thank God I got some sleep. And you're like, oh, it's 4:30 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's different.
It is. But that's like traditionally what, the way that I've been, even since like being a little guy. Like I would just lie in bed for hours before I'd go to sleep. But there was a time in my life when I could just like hit that pillow and I'm just out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was when I had a living girlfriend. She always wanted to talk. It's like, God damn it. This is my time to sleep here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want to be sharp, man, I mean, I
sleep is a big part of that.
Huge.
Sleep is a huge part of that. So sleep is where you do everything. I recently listened to a podcast on sleep on the Joe Rogan Podcast. If you're interested in it, I'll recommend it to you before we go here. For the rest of you, you can find it in the show notes. I'll put it in there. But so that makes me pretty much an expert. But anyway, like you're surprised at how much you actually learn in your sleep. Like the things you're doing in your day-to-day life, you're doing them, but where you make those neural pathways is in your sleep. So if you go out and you learn a brand new thing and then you get a shitty night's sleep, you're going to be shitty at that.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out and learn a brand new thing and you get a good night's sleep, you're going to be good at that.
Right.
So in your practice sessions that you do on Saturday and then go home and then, I don't know, maybe go out on Saturday night and party. Like that's probably not doing you any good. You might as well have not even done that practice session.
Right.
What a mind blower that is, right? Like in your conscious waking hours when your eyes are open and you're doing things doesn't matter near as much as when you're sleeping.
Right.
So same thing as your stage walkthroughs.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, listen to a Joe Rogan podcast. Especially if you can, every once in a while, I'll try to, that's one of the few podcasts where I don't chop it up into multiple sessions. I wait until I have, a solid 18 hours to listen to one podcast.
They are freaking long.
And I check them out. But, yeah, he goes pretty deep. And it's a lot of stuff where you listen to a lot of it. I know that in my experience, I've listened to a lot of those type of podcasts where it's obvious, the decision is obvious. The best choice is super obvious, but are you going to do something about it?
Dude, I tell you what, like I know a lot of things that I should do and I don't do them.
Oh, God.
And to have those two parts of your mind, like watching yourself not do them, you're like, what is wrong with me? Like, I know that I should be doing this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdest thing. It's so weird being a human.
Right.
I found that podcast if you're interested. It's number 1109 with Matthew Walker. And he wrote a book called Why We Sleep, Unlocking Power of Sleep and Dreams. And it is fantastic if you have a spare 2 hours and 2 minutes.
I was just about to take a picture or have you text it to me, but I guess I'll listen to this podcast and it'll remind me.
I'll send it to you, bud.
Yeah, but another thing that I've been hearing a little bit lately, mainly in pistol shooting, but I've heard it, I don't know, in the last year or maybe the last year or two, is people talking about saving open for when they're older.
Yeah, so that used to be a thing that we heard a lot on the podcast, and recently everybody's going open.
Right. Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you think about people that, like we were talking earlier, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to compare an open shooter to a limited shooter. Like you wouldn't compare a Formula One car to a stock car. Like they probably would never race ever.
Right.
And it's one of those scenarios where with open, I don't know how people think that. I mean, maybe years ago when the matches, I've seen matches from years ago when there wasn't as much athleticism involved. But looking at it now, it's like, bro, life's pretty short. If you're gonna shoot open and you wanna race in the Formula One, you don't see guys that are starting out in open at an older age and being too horribly successful at it.
Yeah,
I haven't seen too many people. I mean, the few people that I do see, they know and I know that they're never going to be competitive ever, and they have a good time and they enjoy it. And I look forward to being in my 60s and enjoying it too. And I'll sure as shit still be shooting open then. But that's an interesting one.
Yeah, because like if you stop and think about it, Matt, like if I gave you a rifle, like if I gave you that Galil right there, so for people that are not sitting in the room with us, it's got iron sights on it, right? Because I have my optic on a different gun right now.
Right.
If I gave you that, what would be the first thing you did?
Probably put an optic on it.
Yeah, exactly, because shooting iron sights is slower and more difficult.
And by optic, I mean 2 of them, unless I can fit 3.
Unless I can fit 3, and then yeah, exactly. 1 on each section of rail on that thing. Yes. So it has been decided by many wars that having a dot on your rifle, having a scope on your rifle is much better than not, right? We know that. And now we're learning that on the pistol in combat areas, but we've known that in IPSC and USPSA for decades. Yep. And that's the reason that we have different divisions, is because everyone was tired of getting beat by the dude with the dot.
Right.
So we know that's better. So
Yeah, the funny thing is
What's stopping people?
I hear. Well, I know the cost of shooting open guns is it's a big cost. I mean, at this point, like I said in the last time that we discussed open shooting on this podcast. I mean, step one to being an open shooter is making sure all your gear runs. Like it has to run, and a lot of times that comes at a premium. You know, you got to buy that awesome Atlas gun. You got to buy that Dissident gun. And you got to get a rifle that works every single time, and I think it's a big investment. I mean, my 3 guns, I'm probably $15K in my main 3 guns, and of course I have backups to most of them, but it's a lot of money. I think that's probably one of the big things, and I would imagine it's probably. I mean, I've shot open all but the one match, if you remember. So,
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's one of those things where it might be a little intimidating maybe, but I mean, thinking about waiting until, I mean, I've heard people telling me, I've heard people say something along the lines of, when my eyesight starts going and I can't see my front sight anymore, I'm going to start shooting open.
Right.
And it's like, bro, you're 40 right now. Like, you're going to wait till you're 60? You're going to wait till you're 50? Like, don't forget, it's not about just eyesight. Like, you have to sprint, shoot, like every division. But everyone else that you're racing against is doing the same thing, you know, and younger and newer models, you know?
Yeah. Well, and so you're a teacher by profession.
By current profession, not to be confused with trade.
Exactly. But, that adults learn differently than children, right?
Yep.
And that's because I think that our ability to learn new things either degrades or changes over the years. Yep. So if you're sitting there at 60 trying to teach yourself something that you could have learned when you were 40, could have learned when you were 20, what are your odds of success? Will you be more successful in that endeavor if you start 20 years earlier?
Right.
I think so.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Craig Outson told me recently, time will pass whether you make the change or not,
Yep.
So it's
world's going to keep spinning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So it's like
nonstop.
I know. So either you get an open now or you do it 20 years from now.
Right.
And really, is there that big of a difference?
Yeah.
There will be in the learning curve for sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine just in the couple years or 3 years or so I've been shooting 3-gun, seeing the evolution of what you need, talking about, oh, this guy's running a bag. Oh, better get my bag out.
Yeah.
Oh, he's running a bipod. Oh, he's running a bipod and a bag. Oh my God, he's running a bipod and a bag, and he's using his knee pad too. And holy smokes, it's like it sets the tone. And like I was telling you earlier about the last club match that a bunch of us shot. There was 5 or 6 open shooters running great gear and great shooters, and I decided to use a big pump pillow that I'd borrowed for a particular stage where we were shooting some skinny Sammies at some distance. And, some of my counterparts didn't do it. And, my buddies that like group text buddies, like my homies. Right. And I was blown away. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, what are you doing? And I watched them, a couple of them an extra like 10, maybe 12 seconds on the stage just because of that. But it sets the precedence, it sets that precedence, and you got to jump on it, whether that's the kneeling bipod or whatever it is, you got to stay up to date with all the gear. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and as far as like using the gear, it's like that saying, if you can't go prone, go prone.
Oh yeah.
That's a saying for a damn reason,
dude.
And so the dude that every time that I've like, oh no, I got this on my knee, this is a chip shot, I've jacked it up and I've regretted it. So if you can use a pillow, use a pillow. If you can use a udder bag, use an udder bag.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know how many times I'm going to fall victim to my own stupidity and thinking that I'm going to overcome it. Oh, this time's going to be, I've shot off this platform.
You're 40. You should know that you will not overcome that.
Firstly, I'm 39. Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
My bad. But when's your birthday?
I just had it. It was on October 28th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, this happened. We shot a 3-gun match a couple months ago. I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. And Kelly Neal, he's like, I had asked him, dude, are you going to go prone? And he's like, of course I'm going prone. Like, why wouldn't you go prone?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, I mean, I could reverse kneel. There's a good piece of wood right there I can get my rifle propped up on, and I think it's perfect. And dude, not not even close. I saw him go up there, go 1 for 1. I was like, oh, I could do that. It'll be fine, you know, and nope, negative.
Yeah.
No, it didn't work out.
For me, as soon as you break that second miss, it's like, I should have just gone prone, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, listening to or watching, I don't know if it was Nate or if it was Joel Turner, but one of them before binning, I think it was both of them, they were running some drills where they had to shoot 1 for 1, or they were really, really aiming for 1 for 1, or that was their goal. And I watched that and I was like, man, that's pretty smart. And I thought about it a little bit more and I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, why don't we all wait until we have, you know, the sight picture we want and break that shot? You know, why are we so sporadic and why are we so, like, you know, nervous about it? And it's a good thing to start practicing, and that's something that the few times that I've practiced since that podcast, or since that I saw that post, I've tried to implement that. It's in my practice notes in my log that I keep. So it's another good one.
So I've been training a lot with Darren Spada.
Yeah.
And same thing. Like we'll actually stop each other if someone's just like flinging rounds.
Yep.
Like you get like one makeup shot and then I'm just shouting stop.
Yep.
And we're trying to keep each other honest of like, what does it take to acquire that first round hit?
Yep.
And if it's 3.14 seconds and that's the fastest we can get it, that's cool. But 2 shots is going to be 4 seconds. 3 shots is going to be 4.5 seconds, you know?
Right.
And it just, once you see that on the clock and like how much that actually matters, taking the extra time, although it's hard in a match environment because you're like in such a hurry to get done, you know, but it really does matter and it really does make a difference.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to taking the time and doing something about it. Like we all know that we need to slow down, but you got to do something about it. You know?
Yeah.
You can't just talk about it. Like, you know, it's one of those things where you have to do something, you know?
Yep.
Like take the time, like have some discipline and do it. And that's another one of my goals for 2020 is just stop talking and you know, put it on the timer, right?
Nice. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So those are very good topics. We're kind of coming up on a time crunch now. Do you want to go lightning round? Do you have anything else you want to bring up? This might be the Festivus episode. Matt brings his grievances to Austin. We're going to have to fight. I got an aluminum pole over there. We're going to have to wrestle.
No, I'm good, man. I'm just kind of trying to stay above water at this point with work. It's a lot of travel, dude, nonstop. I mean, I flew into Corpus on Monday. I taught a class Tuesday morning in Corpus. I drove here last night, flying to Dallas in exactly 2 hours. And then I fly home tomorrow.
Oh, wow. I thought you were heading home tonight.
No.
Oh, man.
I fly to Dallas. I teach another class.
By the way, you could have been to Dallas faster than you can catch a flight.
Yeah, I've been
actually maybe not driving. Dallas is like a mess to drive to.
I don't know. I've done it. I've driven it and I've flown it. And I think Corpus is one of the few places where I got to be careful flying in and out of there because it's just a small airport.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten screwed over a few times, but Austin's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin's a good airport.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think
they're easy about flying with guns.
Yeah. I haven't flown here with guns, but hopefully this year maybe. Is there any major matches this year here?
Are you kidding?
Here in Austin?
Yeah, there's a Texas 3-gun championship.
Oh yeah. I got weight.
That's a big one. Did you?
Got weight listed on that mother. I did it.
Yeah, I did too. Actually, you have to get bribe Aaron next time I see him. There's also the Texas tune-up.
Never heard of that.
$2,000 prize.
One prize, one winner.
So there's first place is $2,000. Second place. By the way, what they say on Facebook precedes what I say here. I think it's $1,000 for second place, and then it's $500 for third place in each division.
Nice.
And there's open PCC and TAC Ops. Sounds like a lot of people are going to be coming out to cash in. So should be interesting to see who actually heads up to the top there.
Yeah,
should be fun.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. When you put money on the table,
yeah,
that changes the dynamic quite a bit.
Yeah, no prizes, only money.
Yeah,
kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah. What other matches are out here?
So there's that. The DC project is going to be around Halloween this year. Of course, we got Vortex Shooter Source that's up in the Dallas area.
Right.
ETTS has like several several matches. I think of the big ones I know of the Hard as Hell Texas. There's like the Walking Dead match. I've never been to that one. I don't know how that one is. I'm not sure where UML Traditional Nationals is going to be this year. I hope it's not at the place it was this year, 2019 Cawthorn Cartridge Club.
Mm-hmm.
That tired of going to that range. I've been to so many different matches at that range.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's in the Central Texas area. I think that about covers it.
Yeah, I'm still kind of deciding whether or not if I'm gonna shoot Shooter Source or not. I'm gonna do my best to get into the Magpul Texas 3-Gun Championship, but yeah, I don't plan on coming to Texas a whole lot other than those two.
We'll see when you're here.
Yeah, buddy.
Well, Matt, any final thought you want to leave the audience with?
I thought about this on my way in, and I knew you were going to say that, and I didn't go too far into my thoughts, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna wing it. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think 2019 was a solid year for competition and learning, and 2020 is going to be a year for me for just all out concentration and discipline. And I don't know. I think this year I want to try to get some more new shooters into our fun. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to do that yet. I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are like, hey, I want to learn how to shoot 3-gun, and you know, I want to go shooting with you, and I'll answer that request with, we're shooting in the desert. We want to shoot a match. You want to shoot pistol, rifle, shotgun, all of the above. And then I think I overwhelm them.
Yeah, I think so.
Zero response.
Yeah.
So I'm going to work on that a little bit this year and see if we can't grow the sport a little bit more.
Nice. I like that.
Yep.
All right. Everybody else challenged. You do the same.
Yep. Bring it.
Well, Matt, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you come by the studio. You are welcome anytime. If you got business in Pflugerville, we will think of something to talk about if you can make the time, and just cruise by, and we'll BS. We'll get the mics out.
Awesome.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to the 3-Gun Show. If you like this type of content, you can support us on a monthly basis for as little as $5 per month by subscribing at Patreon. On Patreon at 3gunshow.com/Patreon. That's Patreon. You can also give your business to the companies that support the 3-Gun Show, including Vortex Optics, IWI, and JP Rifles. Until next week, I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.